Welcome to the Relevance Report, where we explore the relevant stories that are shaping our world today. I'm Allegra Ferderer, your host this week. On today's show, we will first explore Alberta's new COVID-19 program. Then, we will discuss the province's book ban. Lastly, we will examine endometriosis in Canada. Alberta's ruling United Conservative Party recently enforced a new COVID-19 program. Now, non-eligible Albertans must pay $100 if they want a vaccination. With the flu season ahead, will there be a drop in vaccinations in the province? Emma Fleet guides us through the updated vaccination rollout plan, and she shares her opinion on the change in vaccine policy.
Around June of 2025, the Government of Alberta declared a change of vaccine immunization for COVID-19, stating that Albertans would now have to pay for their own vaccine doses starting in October 2025. On August 22nd, that process was finalized and is visible on alberta.ca. The document analyzes the program into a two-phase plan. The goal of this plan is the same as 2021, where Canada's article, the COVID Immunization Plan, outlines the guidance from the National Advisory Committee on Immunization to begin the vaccination process by only distributing to eligible Canadians in priority populations. According to the committee, the two priority groups were anyone who is health vulnerable and anyone who is exposure vulnerable. After securing more vaccines, Canada was able to expand the population and immunize all Canadians for free. Now, Smith wants to execute the same plan, but with non-eligible Canadians paying an administration fee of $100 for shipping, handling, and administration, where before provinces and territories were responsible for purchasing vaccines for their own jurisdictions. Albertans will be able to use the Alberta vaccine booking system up until September 30th to pre-order immunizations and confirm or book appointments in October. Pre-ordering also allows Albertans to schedule their immunizations for 2026. Those who do not pre-order by September 30th will be able to schedule their immunizations once doses become readily available. Because of that, it is recommended that Albertans pre-register their appointments. That way there will be vaccines available even if you're not Phase 1 eligible. Booking will remain open for all Albertans while supplies last or until the respiratory season is over. The decision came after 401,000 doses went unused or expired during 2024-25, costing the province over $44 million. Enforcing the new plan, Alberta wants to manage its own supplies, protecting vulnerable Albertans and minimizing waste. While the Alberta website outlines many pros for why they're making the change, it personally seems unfair. The Canada Health Act, a federal legislation, requires provinces and territories to receive full federal funding for Canadian Medicare. The Act is a framework for Canada to be a publicly funded healthcare system that ensures that all essential health services are accessible to residents of Canada based on need, not payability. Although the Act can get tricky and more complicated, I hope you're able to see my argument. Immunizations for all Canadian residents should be free no matter who you are, and the Premier should expect to see a decrease of Albertans who register and a rise of positive COVID cases as a result. I understand there's a need to reevaluate how Alberta spends its money. However, paying for a vaccination that's $100 will not attract many residents. Maybe if the price was more reasonable, people would consider. As a university student, I question if it's worth my money. The cost of living is expensive, and for me, each semester I have to purchase any and all things necessary for classes that I'll maybe use once, and other things like monthly parking, gas, groceries, and fun hobbies. Speaking for myself and how I've grown up, my mother and I have always gotten our vaccinations every year. It's the norm for us. So now, since we're not eligible, we're both on the fence of do we get it or do we not and pray we don't catch anything. COVID will never go away, just like influenza, and even though it happened 5 years ago, it affected millions of people in and outside of Canada and continues to do so. All Albertans can do this season is try to protect themselves, and I hope the Premier can find another way to keep this province immunized without having Albertans pay out of pocket.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has enforced a new book ban affecting K-12 students. This ban removes over 200 books from school library shelves. Smith has said it's to remove sexually explicit or graphically violent content from schools. But there has been a speculation over if this is really the case. Katarina Meyer tells us which books are being banned and how it will affect students. She shares her opinion on the book ban.
Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith has enforced a book ban for all Canadian school boards to follow, affecting students and teachers from elementary to high school. The book ban is said to remove books with sexually explicit content, violence, or overall inappropriate topics. However, some books may not be appropriate for elementary school, does not necessarily mean is inappropriate for high school students. Over 200 books have been pulled from school shelves. Some books that challenge the way society runs, such as The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and 1984 by George Orwell, have all been banned. Even lighter fiction that's not outright criticizing the government, such as It by Stephen King, The Godfather by Maria Puzo, and Jaws by Peter Benchley, have also made the book ban list. Some of these authors have directly criticized Danielle Smith's book ban, such as Margaret Atwood. She calls out the government using the platform X, as she posted a picture-perfect story catered to the Byrne government, which is a heterosexual couple having a bunch of kids without having any sex. Danielle Smith did make a statement saying she'll keep classics on the shelves, but remove inappropriate content. In my opinion, this sounds like an empty statement to combat the backlash of the ban, as classics are actively being pulled off the shelves. Sure, some books are not suitable for young audiences, but that shouldn't mean older students, bordering on adulthood, should lose access to the same books. I think that one of the main effects of books is to challenge our existing beliefs. Books that challenge the authority or explore hard, delicate topics tend to have sensitive content within the story. But this content is not without a purpose. It is to showcase the effects a certain situation has on a person and places emphasis on the struggle. Banning of books prevents certain voices from being heard and lowers representation in the media. This is shown as many queer books are getting banned, along with books that talk about drug abuse, sexual abuse, and other forms of abuse. Taking away these stories prevents students from feeling found in literature and even finding resources to help them deal with a similar situation. The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chosby covers many sensitive topics that are very prevalent in our society, but it is getting banned due to LGBTQIA+ content and for the mention of rape, drugs, and profanity. This book specifically can help people navigate similar problems, or at least find comfort in seeing representation, as it can make one feel heard or seen. I believe that this is an act of censorship of the media. In my opinion, books enhance critical thinking skills, which are necessary for society to continue to evolve. By censoring books in schools, the conservative government are taking away the chance to hear new ideas and perspectives that may challenge the status quo. When we stop challenging the status quo, society stops progressing and starts to lose its diversity and individuality as openness to new ideas declines. Society starts to regress into past traditional ideologies, which may be beneficial to some people who favor this conservative ideology, but negatively affects those who may not fit into this perspective or narrative. Overall, this book ban should not be treated lightly, as it affects how the younger generation's perspectives and ideologies are shaped.
Endometriosis. When you first hear this word, you likely have no clue what it is. It's a painful chronic condition where tissue similar to that which is shed during menstruation grows outside the uterus. As complicated as it sounds, so is getting diagnosed. But receiving a diagnosis isn't the only issue. Here are some revealing statistics on how prevalent and pressing this disease is in Canada. In Canada, endometriosis affects approximately 1 in 10 girls and women of reproductive age and an unmeasured number of transgender, non-binary, and gender-diverse individuals who have uteruses, as stated on the Government of Canada website. That is over 1 million people who suffer from debilitating pain, infertility, heavy bleeding during periods, painful intercourse, fatigue, bowel issues, and ovulation pain. However, symptoms vary from person to person. As estimated, 30 to 50% of individuals with this disease have infertility, as noted on the University of British Columbia's website. It is not just a period disease, as many commonly view it, but a disease that affects individuals at all stages of their menstrual cycle. Yet it worsens during ovulation or leading up to a period, or rather the luteal phase, because of inflammation. Endometriosis also thrives on estrogen, as this disease is dependent on it. Unfortunately, the symptoms of endo often present as or overlap with other conditions and diseases such as ovarian cysts, irritable bowel syndrome, pelvic inflammatory disease, or even urinary tract infections. For instance, IBS and endo both have overlapping symptoms of constipation and cramping. As such, doctors commonly misdiagnose the patients with other conditions or diseases. In Canada, getting an official diagnosis takes approximately 5 to 7 years, yet on average it takes 5. Now the question is, why does it take so long to get an official diagnosis? Well, for one, the only way endometriosis can be accurately diagnosed is through a minimally invasive surgery called laparoscopy. The wait times for Healthcare in Canada 2024 report revealed that it takes around 24 to 77 weeks to get this surgery, depending on the province. MRIs and ultrasounds also detect endotissue. However, these methods are not always accurate, especially if lesions, more commonly known as tissue similar to the uterus lining, are too small to be detected. The second reason it can take a long time to receive a diagnosis is that doctors can mistakenly consider one's symptoms, leading to an underdiagnosis. Doctors can suggest that one's pain is simply normal and just a regular period, which in turn dismisses the symptoms one is experiencing. Endometriosis currently has no cure, and doctors have yet to find an exact cause of this disease, though there are speculations including a condition called retrograde menstruation. With the prevalence and pressing issues of this disease, one could hope for the future that doctors not only find a cure, but also treat the disease accordingly and not dismiss their patients because these symptoms are not normal. Further, doctors and society should educate themselves better on this disease. Thanks for joining us for the Relevance Report. This week's episode was produced by Allegra Ferderer, Emma Fleet, and Katerina Meyer. The show was edited by Katerina Meyer. The show's supervising producer is Sheena Rossiter. Additional studio supervision by Sasha Stanojevic. This episode was produced as part of the BCSC 206 Introduction to Audio and Visual course in the fall 2025 semester. The course is part of the Bachelor Communication Studies program in the Department of Communication at MacEwan University. The show was edited and produced out of the MacEwan Media Production Studio. Our theme music is called Buzzing by Kaylee Lambert. This podcast also includes music by Pixabay Tracks Alone by Bo DeLeeson, The Last Point, Beat Electronic Digital by Raspberry Music, and Movement by Soul Proud Music. Logo design for this podcast is by Sasha Stanojevic, and I'm Allegra Ferderer, your host for this week's episode. This podcast was recorded on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis settlement and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 9, 10, and 11 within the historical North Saskatchewan River Territory. Don't forget to subscribe to the Relevance Report on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you heard, please leave us a review and rating. It really helps people find the show. Please join us again next week when we report the relevant stories that are shaping our world.